dear students, now we are in History 7th lesson, Part 3. Peasant Revolts under Crown. Indigo Revolt 1859 to 60. Before synthetic dyes were created, natural indigo dye was highly valued by clothmakers around the world. Many Europeans employed peasants to grow the indigo, which was processed into dye at the planters' factories. The dye was then exported to Europe. The peasants were forced to grow the crop. The British planters gave the cultivator a cash advance to help pay for the rent of the land and other costs. This advance needed to be repaid with interest. The planters forced the peasants to grow indigo rather than food crops. At the end of the season, the planters paid the cultivators low price for their indigo. Moreover, the small amount the peasant earned was not enough to pay back the cash advance with interest, so they fell into debt. However, the peasants against would be forced to enter into another contract to grow indigo. The peasants were never able to clear their debts. Debts were often passed them from father to son. The Indigo Revolt began in 1859. The rebellion began as a strike as the peasants of a village in Bengal's Nadia district refused to grow any more indigo. The movement quickly spread to the other indigo growing districts of Bengal. The revolt then turned violent. The peasants, both the Hindu and Muslims, participated in the revolt. Women, armed with pots and pans, fought alongside the men. Indian journalists in Calcutta wrote articles about the brutality of the planters. The 1860 play Nil Darpan means Mirror of the Indigo by Dinabandhu Mitra did much to draw attention in India and Europe to the plight of the indigo growers. Deccan Riots 1875. Heavy taxation ruined agriculture. Famine deaths increased. The first recorded incident of rioting against the moneylenders in the Deccan was in May 1875 in Supa, a village near Pune. Similar cases of riots were reported from close to 30 villages in Pune and Ahmednagar. The rioting was directed mostly at the Gujarat moneylenders. Under British rule, peasants were forced to pay revenue directly to the government. Also, under a new law, moneylenders were allowed to attach the mortgaged land of the defaulters and auction out of. This resulted in a transfer of lands from the cultivators to the non-cultivating classes. Trapped in the vicious circle of the debt and unable to pay the outstanding amount, the peasant was forced to abandon cultivation. Next topic, the foundation of Indian National Congress. Rise of nationalism. The second half of the 19th century saw the emergence of national political consciousness among a new social class of English-educated Indians. The Indian intelligentsia played a critical role in generating a national consciousness by exposing a large number of people to the idea of nation, nationalism, and various democratic aspirations. The flourishing of print media, both in the vernacular and in English, played a significant role in circulating such ideas. Even though they were numerically small, they had a national character and capacity to establish contracts on all India scale. They were working as lawyers, journalists, government employees, teachers, or doctors. They took the initiative to float political outfits such as Madras Native Association, East India Association, Madras Mahajana Sabha, Pune Sarvajanik Sabha, the Bombay Presidency Association, and many others. Objectives and methods. The formation of the Indian National Congress in 1885 was intended to establish an all India organization. It was the culmination of attempts by groups of educated Indians politically active in three presidencies: Bombay, Madras, and Calcutta. A.O. Hume lent his services to facilitate the formation of the Congress. Umesh Chandra Banerjee was the first president of Indian National Congress. The first session of the Indian National Congress was held on 28 December 1885. The early objectives were to develop and consolidate sentiments of national unity, but also professed loyalty to Britain. The techniques included appeals, petitions, and delegations to British, all done within a constitutional framework. Some of the key demands were the following: creation of legislative councils at provincial and central level, increasing the number of elected members in the legislative council, separating judicial and executive functions, reducing military expenditure, reduction of home charges, extension of trial by jury, holding civil services exams in India as well as in England, police reforms, reconsideration of forest laws, promotion of Indian industries and an end to unfair tariffs, excise duties, militant nationalism. The methods of moderate leaders failed to yield any substantive changes in the British attitude towards the moderate demands of early Indian nationalists. They were criticized by the group of leaders known as extremists. Instead of prayers and petitions, these militants were more focused on self-help. Partition of Bengal. Partition of Bengal in 1905 was the most unpopular of all. The partition led to widespread protests all across India, starting a new phase of the Indian national movement. The idea of partition was devised to suppress the political activities against the British rule in Bengal by creating Hindu-Muslim divide. Hindu-Muslim divide. It was openly stated that the objective of partition was to curtail Bengali influence and weaken the nationalist movement. By placing Bengal under two administrative units, Curzon reduced the Bengali-speaking people to the linguistic minority in a divided Bengal. Curzon assured Muslims that in the new province of the East Bengal, Muslims would enjoy a unity which they never enjoyed since the days of Mughals. Instead of dividing the Bengali people along the religious line, partition united them. The growth of regional language newspapers played a role in building a sense of proud Bengali identity. The day Bengal was officially partitioned, 16th October 1905, was declared as the day of mourning. Thousands of people took bath in Ganga and marched on the streets of Calcutta singing Vande Mataram. Boycott and Swadeshi movement in Bengal. Boycott and Swadeshi were always interlinked to each other and part of the wider plan to make India self-sufficient. Four major trends can be discerned during the Swadeshi movement in Bengal. First one, the moderate trend, constructive Swadeshi, militant nationalism, revolutionary terrorism. First, we will see the constructive Swadeshi. The constructive programs largely stressed upon self-help. It focused on building alternative institutions of self-governance that would operate free of British control. Swadeshi shops sprang all over the place selling textiles, handlooms, soaps, earthenware, mud, and leather goods. Passive resistance. From 1906, the Swadeshi movement took a turn. Under this new direction, the Swadeshi program included 4 points: boycott of foreign goods, boycott of government schools and colleges, courts, titles and government services, development of Swadeshi industries, national schools, recourse to armed struggle if British repression went beyond the limits of endurance. Militant nationalism. Lala Lajpat Rai of Punjab, Bala Gangadhar Tilak of Maharashtra and Bibil Chandrapal of Bengal were three prominent leaders during the Swadeshi period and were referred to as Lal Bal Pal. Triumvirate. Punjab, Bengal and Maharashtra emerged as the hotbed of militant nationalism during the Swadeshi movement. In South India, Tuticorin became the most important location of Swadeshi activity, with the launch of a Swadeshi steam navigation company by V.O. Chidambaranar. Swaraj or political independence. One of the common goals of the extremist leaders was to achieve Swaraj or self-rule. However, the leaders differed on the meaning of Swaraj. For Tilak, Swaraj was the attainment of complete autonomy and total freedom from foreign rule. Home Rule Movement. The Indian national movement was revived and also radicalized during the Home Rule movement, led by Lokmanya Tilak and Annie Besant. World War I and India's participation in it was the background for the Home Rule League. When Britain declared war against Germany in 1914, the moderate and liberal leadership extended their support to the British cause. It was hoped that in return, the British government would give self-government after the war. Indian troops were sent to several theatres of World War, but the British administration remained non-committal to such goals. What was seen as a British betrayal to the Indian cause of self-government led to a fresh call for a mass movement to pressurize the British government. Objectives of Home Rule Movement: to attain self-government within the British Empire by using constitutional means, to obtain status of dominion, a political position accorded later to Australia, Canada, South Africa and New Zealand, to use non-violent constitutional methods to achieve their goal. Lucknow Pact 1916. The Home Rule movement and the subsequent reunion of moderate and the militant nationalists opened the possibility of fresh talks with the Muslims. Under the Lucknow Pact, the Congress and the Muslim League agreed that there should be self-government in India as soon as possible. In return, the Congress leadership accepted the concept of separate electorate for Muslims. British response. As the demand for Swaraj was raised by Tilak and Annie Besant that gained popularity, the British used the same old ploy to isolate the leaders by repressing their activities. In 1919, the British government announced the Montague-Chelmsford reforms, which promised a gradual progress of India towards self-government. This caused a deep disappointment to Indian nationalists. In a further blow, the government enacted what was called the Rowlatt Act, which provided for arbitrary arrest and strict punishment.